For my artifact, I decided to create an archive of photos with text and color, as well as adding layers and filters, to emphasize an experience and a metaphysical study of a space and place. On a psychogeographical walk around the London borough of Southwark, I encountered a number of places and sites that struck me as particularly destitute and haunted by the absence of what once was and what now is. This absence that has a presence was particularly interesting to me. This borough could, as a place, stand as a near-perfect example of a living archive. An artifact, for example, is something we have to represent and remember a past occurrence. Its original purpose is now absent. When archiving using video and photography, the moment that is recorded is in the past, and what we are watching is simply a memory of what once occurred. These images and my presentation of them to you are in essence an artifact. This presentation was recorded in the past from when you are watching it. I am absent at this moment, but my voice and my words are present with you, thanks to technological advancements that can allow us to archive in this way. A similar idea of presence and absence occurs in cities all over the world every day. London, for instance, a city that has been around for nearly 2,000 years when the Romans established Londinium between 43 and 44 AD, is an archive of its own history. The populace are constantly building, so fast that at times buildings are placed before foundations of the last have even been removed. This is exactly what has begun in Elephant and Castle in Southwark. Southwark is often known for the monumentous and now nearly demolished Highgate estate. When typing Southwark Council and even Elephant and Castle into Google, both times mentions of Highgate estate came up in my search. Currently, the estate is in an odd and disturbing state of limbo. While most of the site has been demolished, a good deal of the metal and concrete structures survive. There are even areas where wallpaper is still visible on the slabs of concrete. Memories imprinted upon the landscape. In the photos that I have taken of the Highgate estate, I have layered on text, highlight, and saturation, all to give the viewer an aesthetic understanding of the experience of being at the site and witnessing the destruction of a place that held so many lives and memories. The memories still seem to hang thick in the air, a concept actually very intricately attached to psychogeography, and even in direct opposition to ontology, which the dictionary defines as the branch of metaphysics that deals with the presence of being. The presence of being. Simple. And while sounding extremely close, hauntology, a term coined by Derrida in 1993 in his book Spectres of Marx, is almost the exact opposite. In 2006, the practice, this new approach to metaphysics, was defined in The Guardian by Colin Davis as the priority of being and presence, with the figure of the ghost as that which is neither present nor absent, neither dead nor alive. To me, this is the most accurate and honest description of Derrida's theory of hauntology. I remember as I was walking around the area of the estate, I felt even with the destruction and the obvious removal of so much, the building almost seemed more present and more noticeable for being in the process of removal. The fenced perimeter that I show and highlight within my artifact focuses on this removal and presence. If you'll recall the first image, a tattered guard dog sign that hangs attached onto the fence, it's visible, barely, that another cautionary sign is placed right above and would be visible if one were to reach out and adjust the neglected adhesive. The photo of the abandoned pub We can see from the covered windows and perhaps guess from the traditional exterior that it was once a pub. But the haunted scent and the aspect of this pub is the old sign that is still displayed in the window. So ironic and disturbing as it is displayed in a now condemned house of London. This haunting continues in the photo of a disconnected bridge to nowhere. I added a graphic of a hand pointing to the place where the bridge ends. I thought this abruptness and loss very reflective of the already haunted environment with all the destruction present. This ending of the bridge so perfectly fits into my prior comment about the construction site as a memory imprinted upon the landscape. The connection to the estate that is now lost and almost seems to become more present as a floating specter that one cannot help but imagine in relation. This once again relates back to Derrida's writing on archiving. As in Archive Fever, he refers to the specter as an unavoidable aspect of archiving, saying, "Why stress spectrality? Because the structure of the archive is spectral. It is spectral a priori, neither present nor absent, in the flesh neither visible nor invisible, a trace always referring to another whose eyes can never be met." The remainder of this bridge is a great example of this visible invisibility that Derrida is referring to. Also, we cannot ignore those estates that are still standing. It is important to recognize and take into account that these buildings are what remains of the borough of Southwark. Low ceilings, paper-thin walls, exteriors made with a siding that resembles a thin aluminium sheet metal. The contrast between these estates that are currently housing so many low-income households in London's Zone 1 and what will be the new Elephant and Castle by 2025? It just seems, as demonstrated in this graphic on a Southwark resident's blog, that people will continue to be pushed out of their houses. When we look at this housing, the grim dark interiors that can be seen here and give the impression of temporary shelter. But we just saw in the remake of Elephant and Castle, and at least with the Haygate estate, less housing will be provided in these updated areas. As they stand now, there is a cold chill in the atmosphere of Suffolk, not much improved by the cold temperature that I experienced on the day of the walk. We came upon this poor and wretched piece of furniture. I did edit this photo. I increased both highlight and saturation, as well as layering on a smoky filter. I wanted the viewer of my artifact to see what I felt when I came across this forgotten piece of someone's life. I needed the brokenness of the sofa to be visible and as striking in a photo as I found it in person. Within this realm of presence and absence within Suffolk, we came across this odd and unsettling, empty yet not empty plot of land. It lies perpendicular to another plot of council housing. It looks like it could be anything from forgotten foundations of a building to a graveyard of a building perhaps. There are so many areas within Suffolk that display this haunted wasteland, being ripped apart and rebuilt, seemingly with little regard to whom it displaces, according to articles by the BBC as well as The Independent in 2013. Council housing, affordable housing, is vitally important, but it is unsettling and haunting how it appears. Though I do fear that this all is in my mind. Derrida does, after all, warn us. The spectre is also, among other things, what one projects on an imaginary screen where there is nothing to see. This causes me to wonder at these ideas of presence and absence. Have I just projected this sense of haunting onto the landscape? But that is just one more issue wrapped up in the practice of archiving. What our viewers will take from and project onto our artifacts.